All right, I'm back again. Was getting ready to make a video about another set of heads, and I've kind of was looking back at some of the stuff that's actually improved my porting over the years, and some of it's really simple, and I thought I'd pass on kind of the basics that maybe a lot of people overlook or don't put enough emphasis on it, and it's stuff that can really help you out and save you a lot of time. I'm going to start with the very basics and then move on to some of the stuff that I've figured out. Obviously, you're going to need a die grinder of some sort. That's $11 Harbor Freight die grinder, and that's what I've used for years and years. And I finally bought a Harbor Freight electric die grinder because I've been dragging my feet because they look like they're huge and clumsy and bulky. And after using it, I actually kind of like it. It's quieter, and my compressor's not sitting there running for hours on end, wearing itself out. I guarantee it's using more electricity or less electricity than my air compressor is to run my other die grinder. But you know, if your budget allows you an $11 die grinder and you got a decent air compressor, then use it. But it being a cheap one, it doesn't have variable speed, so I bought a cheap router control for it. And I actually haven't used it since I've got the router control, but it runs just like 20,000 RPM all the time. And usually when you're grinding, you really need to have speed controls. So I'm interested to see how that all works out. I'm still kind of experimenting with the electric part of it, but and obviously you're going to need some burrs. The main ones I use are these kind of teardrop shaped ones. If you get into a square one like that, when you're working in there and the ends, it cuts a huge groove. So it's best to have kind of a rounded edge on the front and the back, and you can kind of just work your way through it. But you'll need a couple different shapes. I find the ball ones work really good if you got to take a lot of material off something really fast, like around a valve guide or something. And then when you get into the chamber, you kind of need some of the smaller ones working around the seats and stuff. But you can really get by with just a couple of those and some patience. And of course, you're going to need some cartridge rolls. They sell some cheaper porting kits that come with an assortment of it, and that's all I used for years and years. And these are just remnants of those kits, and then some other stuff I've added along the way. But those kits are plenty adequate for what you need. These are handy to have, like for kind of measuring and for duplicating from port to port, like your port entry. You have two sets of these, and set one for the width and one for the height. And then you can kind of compare and know when you're getting close to making sure everything's the same. And then you need to mark your gasket to lay out your gasket, and you can either use Dicom, or you can Dicom on there and then lay the gasket on there and scribe it. Or you can lay your gasket on there and hit it with a little spray paint, dust it on there, and it does the same thing. It does a good job too, for another cheap option. And moving on down the table, this is something that I finally built that I've known about forever, and I actually made a video about making it. And this lets you check the wall thickness of your push rod pinch. Remember which way this needs to go, like this. Let's see, go up from the bottom. And what that does is show you how much more room you got to work right there. It doubles the measurement, so this gap right here is twice as thick as that wall thickness is. And again, like I said, I made a video about how it works and how to make one, and I made that in about 15 minutes out of some junk I had laying around. And that was a game changer there, because your push rod pinch is usually the first place you got to work. And it's the first place you can really screw up and bust through the wall and be in trouble. So that takes a lot of stress out of the whole deal. And like I said, I should have made one years ago, and I just didn't, because I thought they were more complicated than they are, and they're really easy to make. So that was a big step forward for me. The other thing that is new that I've always wanted to do is cast a mold of the runners. And I've drug my feet on this and drug my feet on it because I thought it was really complicated. And I got on Amazon and got a silicone mold making kit for like 17 bucks, and some release agent for it, which I think is basically just silicone spray, but that was like 11, so $28 initially. And if you want to, you can buy a gallon and get it per ounce at half the price of this or less, but a gallon's a lot. So I said one of those kits is enough to make. I made 3 molds out of it. But what's really eye-opening about this is being able to see from the sides and the top, and you can get in there with your calipers and measure and get accurate cross-section measurements and really see what the air's doing. And I'm a visual person, and being able to see it does a lot more than just, you know, feeling the short side or whatever and thinking, okay, well, that needs to be laid back a little more. Well, you know, you can actually look at it and see where it needs something done at and see what you've done and compare an A to B, you know. And I think I'm going to make a quick video on actually making these molds, but this was a huge eye-opening deal because, like I said, you can get measurements on that and kind of map your cross-section and keep that consistent, and you can see, you know, on your stock port what it looks like, which was this one. And before you even start, you can get an idea, hey, you know, that needs opened up there, that needs moved, that needs rounded. Whereas otherwise you're just kind of blindly grinding, and you can find with your calipers the restrictions, or a lot of the restrictions that otherwise you're just guessing on. Like I said, this is new, and I'm kind of excited to see how this helps me going on down the road. But enough about that. Another thing, these cylinder head stands I made a quick video on those too. But those are really game changers for working in here. You can take that, and you're not flopping this thing around on the bench and trying to get in there at the right angle. And another thing is get you a light. This one's about junk, but one of these desk lights that's aimable, and you can get in there and get that light wherever you need it, you know, underneath or on top. This head's rolled back, shine it right down the runner, and you can get in here and work. And those stands in the light is a big part of the actual mechanics of grinding. But I just wanted to pass on, like I said, a couple big steps I've just recently made is this little guy here, which costs next to nothing, and it's pouring the molds. I'm excited about where that's going to go because, like I said, you can see so much more than you can feel with your finger in there. Once you actually lay that on a bench and get to measuring it and looking at it, and this is an A to B, you know, this was the untouched port, and this was after I got done with it. This was like 170 CFM. This was 228. And you can see where it still needs work, but it's just a matter of whether there's metal there to move it. But this was another set of Mopar heads I had that this one flows like 250, 260. But it's a Chinese Renegade head, but you can see the pinch. There's the push rod pinch. That's the major restriction on that one. And like I said, you can actually put calipers to it and say, hey, that needs opened up, you know. And you'll realize, hey, there's no point in grinding down here because this is already too small. So it's a big time saver, and this is a big worry saver here. But other than that, it doesn't take that much to get started doing this stuff because, like I said, you can do it with an $11 die grinder if you got a good enough air compressor, and if you don't, that's a $70 die grinder. And like I said, it's not near as bulky as I thought it was going to be. I've drug my feet on them forever, but I actually kind of like it. So I just wanted to pass on some different stuff than you usually hear, and stuff maybe you don't think about whenever you're getting started, that I've wasted so much time grinding heads, and in hindsight I was just wasting my time because I was grinding the wrong spots. And a flow bench is a definite help, but like I said, just common sense. When you can actually see this port, a little common sense is going to get you a long ways on what needs to be taken out and what doesn't. So anyways, I hope that helps you all out. And like I said, I'll have another video or two about this mold making deal and whatnot. So have a good one.